So I believe Ziva has joined us now. Ziva, please pardon me too. I usually ask people about pronunciations, especially when it comes to names, because I know people ask me all the time. They're like, "Is it Cesar? Is it Caesar? And it's interesting because I get everything. But I'm kind of curious about. I think you'd corrected me. It's Zifa, correct?
Yeah, so the D is silent. And then my friends sometimes call me like Zipper because it kind of has the same sounds. Like if you want to say zipper, but then take off the end, it's Ziffa. But yeah, so my name, it's originally from Ghana and it means like one who's like at peace, which is really funny because I'm just like so impatient. My mom jokes about it all the time.
But
But yes,
you
thank you for
know,
asking.
definitely, definitely. Now, Zifa, I've been really impressed because you have just kind of come onto the scene, and you're just a powerhouse of really just excitement, and there's so much there. You're on Tableau Public. You've been a featured author. You're a public ambassador now, which is amazing, and I'm really
Insane.
happy to see you there. And your work, I've been following your work, but it's just it's incredible. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about yourself, and I'll let you go ahead and get started.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for that wonderful introduction, by the way. It blows me away every time when I like hear people talk about it. I'm like, did this all really happen in 1 year? But 2020 has been something else, so it is what it is. But let me begin by sharing my screen. And I'm assuming that you guys can all see this. This is probably the hundredth time I hear I'm gonna start sharing my screen. But I hope okay. So today I'm going to be presenting on how it started versus how it's going. And so this is going to be a lot more than just me talking about a Twitter trend, but of course we have to talk about how it started. So a few months ago on Twitter, in case you're not always on social media like me, which is probably a good thing, there was this trend where people would post where they started and then where they are now. So basically it was just like a way to show people and how they've been succeeding, which I absolutely love because I just love seeing people succeed and do great things. And so, how it started for me was I initially had taken a class in my sophomore year of university. I'm now currently a senior. And I was like, okay, Tableau is super cool. And then from there, went off, just started dabbling in it, getting involved in the community. And since then, it's been absolutely amazing. I absolutely would not be here today. I have to give a quick shout out to Sarah Bartlett. I remember when I first heard about the Fringe Festival, I was like, okay, this sounds super cool. I can't wait to turn on my laptop and watch all the amazing presentations. And she's constantly trying to push me outside my comfort zone, which I love. And she was like, it would be really cool if you presented. And I was like, this was literally my reaction. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm always talking a big game about how I love to do things that are outside my comfort zone. And when she like challenged me, I was like, okay, I was a little taken aback and didn't really know what I was going to talk about. And so I submitted the proposal with this title because that was like a trend that I saw going on at the time. And I honestly had no clue what I was going to talk about. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just talk about me for like 20 minutes and that'll be cool. But then I was like, no, I'm actually going to talk about something different. So I want you guys to keep in mind something that you may think that's missing from this trend. So how it started versus how it's going. And so if you asked me in 2019, if you showed me a picture of 2020, I'd probably be like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is absolutely insane. If you had asked me how I'm doing, I'd probably be like, oh, like I'm doing good. But if you think about like how many times you've been asked, how are you in the past 24 hours? I've probably been asked maybe like 20, 30 times. The number of times I've answered honestly, probably zero. If someone asked, how are you really? I'd be like, my back hurts, I'm losing my vision, and I'm literally like 21. This is so bad. My eyes hurt from staring at Zoom all day. But and if I had told my 2019 self what's going on in 2020, I'd be like, what the heck? Like, this is absolutely insane. And like I said, there's something missing between your answer, but also the trend. And that one thing is context. So context is so important in storytelling because, like I said, you get to see how something started versus how it's going. If you look at me, for example, you're like, okay, this girl just started using Tableau like a year and a half ago, and now she's doing all these crazy things. Like, what happened in between? And there's a whole nother talk you can find on YouTube about that. But context is so important because it really allows us to see what's happening in the middle of, okay, here's how you're starting, here's how it's going. And so today I'm going to be talking about context and the importance of context in storytelling. Disclaimer, I'm not going to be talking about the context filter. That might be like in a later talk, but I'm going to be talking about things that I think are really important to build up context and build your storytelling. So before that, just to give you guys a little scoop about who I am, who's this random girl talking. My name is Dzifa Amexo. I'm a senior at University College studying finance and data analytics. I just want to say that because I literally have 2 weeks left in my undergraduate career, which is super exciting. Can't wait to graduate and relax for like 6 months before I start working. I am a Tableau public ambassador. I'm also going to give a quick shout out to Millennials in Data, part of the fourth cohort. And that has really been an amazing experience and taught me so much more. I literally, before joining the cohort, like never used calculations because I would just always use do makeover Monday and do all that awesome stuff. And now I actually like know what table calcs and LODs are. So it's been a really awesome journey and I've learned a lot. Love karaoke, love volunteering, traveling, food, gifts, and reality TV. Currently watching The Bachelorette, if anybody cares. And I'm currently reading The Answers, Reflections on My Life by Alex Trebek. Absolutely love him and Jeopardy, rest in peace. Okay, so now without further ado, we're gonna get into what I think are two really important things that help build your context. So first are titles. Titles are your first impression. You really want to grab your audience's attention. So that was my intent when I titled this How It Started versus How It's Going. Probably thought I was going to get on here and talk about, I don't know what you thought, but it definitely grabbed your attention, I hope. So you really want your title of your viz to grab the attention of your audience. It really establishes the tone and sets an expectation. And it can also give insight. So in my case with my title, I was like, okay, I'm going to be talking about how it serves, how it's going, but I really want to focus on what's missing between those two things, the context. And so the tone that I wanted to set was that this is fun. I'm incorporating memes, not GIFs. Unfortunately, Tableau does not support GIFs. Love to see that update come. I'd probably be the only one who would use it. But that's really important for, again, crafting the context. And then moving on to tooltips, which I think is one of the most underappreciated Tableau features. I absolutely love tooltips. I could talk about them all day and all night. But I think they're just small feature, but they can really have a large impact in your dashboard and on your audience. So they're customizable, they don't take up precious dashboard space, and they really allow you to add this added level of interactivity, which can allow for details to be more visible. And of course, you have Vision Tooltip, which is so powerful. So many uses for that. I'm just gonna do like a very surface level scratch of that. But pretty much I'm just going to show you some quick tips and just a way of thinking in terms of looking at your titles, but also your tooltips. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. So here I have a view of regional profit by category. And so you see here the title is regional profit. You're like, okay, cool. Like I know this is regional profit, but in terms of the story that you want to tell, what do you want the audience to like get away from this graph? For me, I want to focus on furniture. Furniture is posting a $2.9 thousand loss. So instead of just having regional profit, which just tells you, okay, like regional profit, doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't really show the insight. And because I want this to be an explanatory viz or dashboard, I would change this to be something like, okay, regional profit, let's say furniture, excuse my spelling, spell check on Tableau would also be another awesome feature. 2.9K loss. Okay. So with the added use of subtitles, or you can even just make this the main title, but with the added use of subtitles, I've seen some really amazing vizzes that have powerful titles that just automatically capture my attention, even through the use of a question or just a statement. And if you actually look at the recent like viz of the days, a lot of them have really awesome titles that really just grasp your attention. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents on titles. I think that they should be really strong and impactful. I'm still working on this myself. I was never really a fan of English, but when you read a news article, I don't really like to read the news, but when you read a news article, journalists do a really, really good job of crafting that like 6 to 10 word phrase that really just captures your attention and pulls you in. You're like, okay, I want to read this article because the name is just so interesting. So I think if we have this change to kind of just make your title inviting and you want to invite the audience and get them excited about whatever you're about to show them, it can really increase that trust. And so the reason why trust is so important is one of my old bosses used to tell me that people do business with people that they like and trust. And this can be applied to literally anything in life. So if someone's going to interact with your dashboard or your viz, they're going to do it because number one, well, not that they like you, but that they like what they see and that they trust you. And so having this powerful title and also through the use of tooltips is how you build trust, which is just a little thing to take it to the next level. Okay, so now I'm going to get into tooltips, my absolute favorite thing. I think I might get a shirt that just says I love tooltips because I love them. They're super important. And so basically what a tooltip is, for those of you who don't know, it's just a way when you hover to add like details about your viz. So it has to be, if you want something to appear in your tooltip, it has to be somewhere in your view. So you see here we have region and profit. So you see that there. Let's say I wanted to drag quantity in, put that on tooltip. You can see that lines up. So going into this little tooltip pane, one of the things that takes like 2 seconds that I always try to do it because like it just makes it look sleek, just makes it look good. And it shows you putting in a little bit of effort is using this to align your fields. And so that's really easy because number one, it just shows that you're taking the extra step. It makes it easier to read. Another thing that I frequently turn off because I know that I would be the user to like accidentally click something is command buttons. So basically, if I was to click this and I see this little pain here, and I would be the person that would like accidentally be like, oh, keep only, and then it's like, oh gosh, what do I do? This is crazy. I wouldn't know where the undo button is. But so depending on your audience, right? This whole presentation is caveated with depending on, it depends on your audience. It depends who your user is. It depends, like obviously if you're printing out this viz, like no one's gonna use tooltips. But if there is a level of interactivity, you wanna make sure that you're really meeting your audience's needs. So let's pretend like I'm the audience. I'm the person that just clicks everywhere. So I would turn off command buttons because I don't want someone to like accidentally just ruin the whole entire view. And so that's really important. Another thing that going along with like the titles and just the context and storytelling, I find that it's really easy to for humans to like read sentences. So you see here I have region, profit, quantity. What if instead of just having these listed out, I wrote in sentences the blank region has made a, and so here the really cool thing that I like about tooltips is that you can really just organize it any way you want. Has made a profit of, has made a blank profit. Okay, cool. So that's pretty basic, but the point I'm trying to make here is that a sentence is way easier to read than like three little things. But again, it depends on your audience. If you know your audience has like a 2 second attention span and they're not going to read a sentence, then don't put in a sentence. But I've seen some really powerful vizzes, especially in the social good, like Makeover Monday, this for social good, where they use tooltips to tell a powerful story and really humanize their data so that every little person matters because we all do matter. But that's just something really important. Okay, so next I'm gonna go on to colors. This is one of my favorite little tricks that I use so often now that I know how to do it. And it's pretty simple, but it's basically, so here we have our accessories, our subcategories by profit, and then we also have percent of total profit. And so this is great. We can see everything. Tooltips are aligned, so that's fine. But another thing is I have percent of total profit along table down. And it's like, what does that mean? Another thing that can really help with building the context is sometimes it's better not to just leave the original field name. Like, why do you need to see like percent of total profit along table down? Like that means nothing. A long table down means nothing to me. So I would definitely change that to be percentage of total profit. I would just take this out. And it's just something that literally takes 2 seconds, but it's already like, okay, this person took the time to like look through and make this look clean and nice. So I really want to focus here is you see how bookcases and tables and supplies are making a negative profit. So in order to enhance the, I want to say pre-attentive attributes, look at me using big words, you can actually create a calculation where it will dynamically color your profit. So if my profit's negative, I want it to be blue. If my profit's positive, I want it to be green. So we're gonna go here and create a calculation. Okay, actually, okay, yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna call this color positive. And so basically we're gonna say if the sum of profit, see I did this the hard way, I could have just dragged it in, is greater than 0, then sum profit. Okay, and cool. So we have that, calculation is valid, and then we're just gonna duplicate this because I'm lazy and change this to negative. I know in the real world of math, it would be greater than or equal to, but for the sake of time, we're just gonna do greater than. Okay, so now we have our color negative and our color positive. So now if you go into our tooltip, we just have the normal profit. So we're gonna take this out And now we're going to, well, first we have to drag this into our view. So we're going to put color negative into tooltip, color positive into tooltip, and then we're going to insert this color positive, color negative. And so the key thing here is to make sure they're directly next to each other. We're going to bold this. I also love the one click thing. It really saves my fingers some time in instead of just having to highlight everything. And we're going to make this green. Okay, cool. So now you see when I hover over this, profit is green, profit is blue. Beautiful. Okay. Now we're going to go into a quick demo of Vision Tooltips. So I'm just going to demo how to do it and then just some little quick features, like turn it up a little bit. So here we have a view of profit by state. You can see here, California, all the jazz. And so basically what I want to is for when my user like clicks into California, they can see which subcategories are contributing the most to the profit. So in order to do that, I want to use this sheet and input it into like every state. So when I see California, I can see which subcategories are contributing to the most profit. So we're going to go here into tooltips and we're going to go to insert this sheet, boom. And the really cool thing about Vision Tooltip is that you can change the width and the height. So I like doing this because sometimes I'm really extra and I like the tooltips like take up a lot of the screen, which may be unnecessary. Again, it depends on your audience, but if you want to make it really small so it doesn't cover up a huge portion of your dashboard, that's really key. And then another thing you can do just to add to the sleekness, turn it up a little bit. In case you guys haven't noticed, I like things to be like very, I guess extra is the word. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just like taking things to like the next level. So what we can do is I have a blank sheet here called divider. And so this is going to create basically a one-line divider between my state and profit text and my Vision tooltips. I'm going to change the height to, let's say, 9. Okay, so now we go into here and okay, well, it would look better if I had kept the size the same. But the point of the story is to just have that like little divider. You can either use a blank sheet, paste that in, change the height, or you could just have copy and pasted a blank line. That just adds to, again, like I'm like, okay, like this looks a little bit better, a little bit more sleek. And it just adds that added level of trust. Remember, the goal is to build trust and build that sense of like you want them to like your viz, you want them to like your dashboard. Okay. And so next, really quickly, this is so powerful and I don't use it as much just because I don't really use reference lines that much. But if you are a person who uses reference lines, this is a really cool feature. So basically I just have sales and profit for 2020 here and I have this reference line. I can see here it's average. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But the word average is like kind of cut off. It's kind of hard to see, kind of easy to see. So I can go into here and edit and I see that tooltip is on automatic. So I can go here and change it to custom. So basically I can input field name. Field name is basically profit. Computation is our average. So I want to say average, field name, and value. And then instead of having that all in my label, I'll just put the value there. So boom, now you see that I have average profit, $62. This is just an example of like what you can do. This can be really powerful if you have a lot of like well, not a lot of content, but if you have something that you want to put in the tooltip, you don't want to take it up by just having it be bulky, like on the reference line. So that's really key. And then last but not least, I know we're rounding about the 19-minute. This is one of my favorite things. I use it probably in every viz, probably just because I can and I'm really extra. But it's the idea of creating like an info button. So basically, just make a placeholder in Tableau. Okay, boom, I already have it here because it's preset and I thought I was going to forget. But I'm just going to go through and show you how I did this. So basically, I just have my placeholder. I want to change my mark to shape. And then you're going to go in and make sure that you have your image loaded to your Tableau repository, your workbook, or the shape repository thingy. You guys know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I will send a link like in the chat or whatever. But okay, yeah. So basically I selected my information button. I have that cool. And now I can really put in anything that I want in this tooltip. And I use this most often when I have a dashboard that has a lot of like context. Like you need to know some things before you read this. Or maybe I have this set up in like a weird way. You need to know things before you really like understand it. You need to know how to navigate. This is really helpful because you can, for example, you can just throw this in here. Let's make this floating. Just throw this in here and then obviously format it so it's cute. But then the user can look at that information tab, get that vital information without you having to take up vital space in your dashboard. And that's pretty much all that I have in terms of quick tips. So now I just want to highlight the three things I think it's really important to consider when you think about context and all that jazz. So the first question is, who's my audience and what do they already know? Right. So as I was talking about, it really is dependent on your audience, what they need, what their level of interactivity is, what that accessibility looks like, various different things to be able to meet their needs. The second thing is, what's the main insight? How or what do I want the audience to feel or do after this? So again, that comes in with the title. You really want to just, if you want to, you can explain the main insight so they can get excited and know what they're looking for. It just adds that level of context. And then three, how can I capture and keep the audience's attention? So for me, in the beginning of this presentation, that was explaining this trend of how it's serviced, how it's going, asking you some maybe meaningful and deep questions about how you really are, in order to capture your attention and be like, okay, what is this girl going to talk about? I don't really know. Is this even going to be related to Tableau? And so really putting your audience at the forefront and thinking, how can I capture, but how can I keep their attention is really important. And I think a way to do that is through your tooltips and Tableau. So that is all that I have in terms of content. I do just want to end with how I started. How it started was how are you, and how it's going is how are you really. 2020 has been an absolutely insane year. I just want to say that I'm so grateful for everyone that has impacted my life in the data fam and just allowed me to get to where I am today. But also just remind you to like have grace for yourself and others. You know, like we're in the middle of a pandemic, so if people aren't performing as they usually perform or are not doing things that they normally do, like have a little forgiveness and just be gracious because we're all living through a really crazy time, and I just think we need a little bit more empathy. So that is my last like life lesson. I hope that you either got some tooltips and tooltips, haha, tooltips, tips about context and titles, maybe a life lesson. Maybe you'll ask someone how they really are, and hopefully they'll answer authentically. Also, quick plug for the game We're Not Really Strangers. I just ordered it. It's a card game that's meant to like build deeper connections, which I think is really important because we're in a pandemic. Okay, that is all that I have to say. If for any reason you need to reach out to me, Twitter is probably the best way, even though I'm trying to limit my social media usage. That is not working. And that is all that I have. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about trends and memes and things like that. If there is time, I will now take questions. I think I went a little bit over, but
Ooh, I see a question, but before you start with the questions, I really have to say that was so extra. So I loved
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
I
I'm
loved it.
honored.
And that was right on. So Jessica Cochran had a question. What was the card name again? The
Yes.
card.
Okay. So it's called We're Not Really Strangers. And so it's actually really crazy. I follow like the Instagram account. And so basically it was this thing that started out where these two strangers like met in a park and they sat before the pandemic. Met in a park, they sat down and they had played this card game and asked like super deep, like crazy questions. But then they realized that even though they were strangers, they had so much in common, even though they were like two completely different people. And so basically it's just a card game to like build deep relationships with people you already know or strangers, and just ask questions like, how are you really? Because I think a lot of the times you don't really say how we really are. I'll be like, yeah, I'm good. I have like 6 presentations in the next week. I have like 2 papers to write, but yeah, I'm good.
That was awesome. I'm watching the chat just explode, and people loved it. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at the chat or not,
I'm
but
looking
a
right
a lot of folks picking up a lot of tips just by watching you go through and use Tableau, and a lot of formatting tips too. But I have to say I also love the fact that you brought up titles, and it used to be something that I know when I got into Tableau, it was a big conversation about how important titles were for dashboards and how to go through and format it. And
yeah.
not only did you take it there, but your tooltips also. You kind of brought it right into tooltips, and it's such an important feature. And I think we kind of overlook a lot of this right now.
Yes, yes. It's
So
the
right
little
on.
things. That's my vibe. But no, see, thank you all. I was so nervous for this. Like I said, again, super shout out to Sarah Bartlett because I would not have done this without her little push. But yeah, thank you for letting me share my content. Thank you guys for organizing this. It's really awesome, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. That was great. Definitely, please stay on for a bit. I'm sure a lot of folks on the chat would like to just chat and ask you any more additional questions. Jessica's saying maybe we can play.
Yes, when I get it, yes, definitely.
But we'll see Jessica soon. She'll be presenting very soon on TFF. But for now, yeah, we'll go through and get ready for